Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Market Wrap. So I am back in Philly. We had a great Labor Day weekend. We brought Mitchell back to school on Sunday, and I'm really gonna miss him after having him here all summer at Watchbox. And now we get to look forward to the NFL. It's officially the first week. I can't wait for my Giants, see how we do against the Broncos on Sunday. So the three watches I love this week, and I had a large selection to choose from this week. We had a great week sourcing, saw a lot of great things come through. And the first one we're going to talk about is a Patek Philippe, and it's the 5135J. Now this is a watch I've always loved. I actually own this exact piece. It's one of the shaped annual calendars. I love Patek's annual calendars. In general, I think they're a great value. I love shaped watches. Now more often than not, we see the rose gold version of this one. The yellow came out first, they made for a few years, but we don't see many yellows hit the market. It's one I love to have in the collection. Now the second piece we're going to talk about is another favorite of mine, and it's a Lange Sohne. Everybody knows how much I love Lange. This particular one is an early generation Lange 1, the 110030, and it's a special edition from 1999 that has the soirée dial. So this was a piece they did in very limited numbers. It's got a mother of pearl dial. It is absolutely a beautiful watch. And the early Langes are really becoming highly collectible. The last piece we're going to talk about, again, another favorite, is a Rolex. This one is the Day-Date 40. This is white gold. If you've ever tried on a Day-Date 40, I love the size, I love the weight. And this particular one has the green Roman dial. Now, when this dial first came out, I wasn't too sure about it, but over the years, it's really grown on me. It's a piece I love to have in the collection. So now we are officially heading into fall, and this is the time of year I really like to try to take a high view of the market. Now, this has obviously been one of the strongest markets we have ever seen. Prices have been escalating for the last year. But the thing I do love about this market is that it's very broad and very active. Now, historically, when prices went up, demand kind of slowed up, trading slowed up. But in this market, the more prices are going up, the more actively trading we're seeing. And the last time I remember a market like this really goes back to the late 90s and early 2000s. Now, back then, the watch market was exploding. New brands were coming on the horizon. We were getting away from just Patek, AP, and Vacheron, and small brands were starting to launch. We had Journe, we had Daniel Roth, we had Lange, we had the Cartier CP collection. They were all coming into their own. Richemont bought up IWC, Jaeger, Lange, and in 2000, we really started to see what was an 8 to 10 year boom in the market that finally crashed in 2008. But we saw the same expansion of the market that I feel like we're seeing today. So now in today's market, we're not only seeing Rolex and Patek trade very heavily, but AP's become a really mainstream brand. Journe, Moser, de Bethune, Groeneveld, Voutilanen. These are all brands that 5 or 10 years ago, nobody talked about. But now we're really seeing trading actively in these brands. We're also seeing the rise of neo-vintage watches. Now, those same watches we were talking about in the late 90s and 2000s are now becoming collectible. So we're really seeing a huge expansion in the market. I think we're going to continue to see this market stay for the next couple of years as more and more people get into watches. So the next segment we're going to do is one of my favorites, and these are questions that we've gotten from viewers. So our first question today: for the most part, Audemars Piguet has become a two-watch brand with the Royal Oak and the Royal Oak Offshore. Which model in the line do you think Audemars should consider diving into more? The Jules Audemars maybe? Sure, there are plenty of examples in the line, but it definitely deserves more attention. So it's a great question. Audemars is definitely one of my favorite brands. It has really become Royal Oak centric. We are seeing the offshores come on, but I was always a Jules Audemars fan. But I don't believe because they had introduced the 1159, they're going to go back to Jules Audemars. I think we might see more attention on the 1159. It's definitely getting a little more mainstream and we're seeing more acceptance on it. But I think if they did a few more complications in the 1159, maybe did a few different material changes, I think that's where they're going to continue to expand the collection. So the second question we have is, we've seen an increase in the usage of other materials in watchmaking. Carbon, ceramic, and even sapphire have become more prevalent. Which of these materials do you think is here to stay? So we've definitely seen an increase in materials. I think the most practical and the most popular will be ceramic. Now, sapphire to me is a little gimmicky and it's really pricey, but I think ceramic has a lot of practical uses. I'm a huge fan of the AP in ceramic. Those perpetuals are amazing. And Rolex has really mastered the use of ceramic bezels in their sports models, which now have become a mainstream material for Rolex. And for Rolex to go into specialized materials, it's unusual. It usually takes a long time, but it's definitely now here to stay. So our last question today is, the market for overseas has been heating up, and do you think that will stick? And what are you hearing from buyers of that model looking as alternatives to the Rolex and the Nautilus? Now, Vacheron Overseas has always been one of my favorite models. We've been talking about it on Market Wrap for at least a year. One of the things I love about it is, one, it's Vacheron. It's one of the most iconic brands. It's a great sports model with interchangeable straps, and they make a number of different variations. And when you compare the pricing to some of the other models, it really does look like a bargain, even at some of these escalated prices. Now, the other thing I love about the watch is it comes in very clear generations. So everybody knows the new generation, which is technically the third, but they also did a second gen with the big date and also the early pieces. And we're really seeing those second gen pieces take off. Now, you used to be able to get a second gen chronograph for sub 20,000. Now they're trading in the mid 20s, but if you compare that to a Patek 5980, an Audemars Chrono, even a Rolex Daytona, it really looks like one of the best values in the market. So that was this week's Market Wrap. Look forward to seeing you again next week.